Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. As promised, when we launched the Conquered UPSC 2026 initiative, that the first Sunday of a month, we shall present before you a video lesson containing 50 MCQs based on current affairs of the previous month. Today is first such video lesson and the focus will be on September 2025 current affairs. I urge you to keep watching these videos without fail till your prelims examination. First, we will discuss some MCQs from Polity, then one by one, we will pick up other subjects. Let's get started and let's look at question number 1. Which of the following statements is or are correct? It's regarding personality rights. And if you have attended my monthly current affairs video lecture, we have discussed these personality rights in great detail. But very briefly here, personality rights are twofold. One, I am an individual. To protect my name, sameness, mannerism, my signature from unauthorized use for commercial gain. That's one aspect of personality rights. Second, protecting my privacy. For example, through a video, whether generated through AI or otherwise, deep fake, if you are ridiculing me, which primarily affects my dignity and my privacy under Article 21, I can go to the court and get those videos taken down. This is part of publicity rights, and that's how various celebrities have approached the court to protect their personality rights. Statement number 1, the personality rights in India have evolved through judicial decisions and are not explicitly guaranteed by the Constitution. This statement is correct. Through various judicial decisions, for example, in the 1990s, when an autobiography of death row convict Otto Shankar was to be published in a magazine, matter went to the court and Supreme Court recognized personality rights as an integral part of Article 21. Similarly, in Anil Kapoor case, Aishwarya Rai case, Alia Bhatt case, Karan Johar case, Asha Bhosle case, Jackie Shroff case, Anil Kapoor case, so many different cases, the court has recognized these personality rights. So these are not explicitly guaranteed by the Constitution, but these have evolved through judicial decisions. Statement 1 is correct. Personality rights are explicitly codified under a single statute in India. You tell me in the comment section what is the right answer. There is no single law which codifies these personality rights. There is a Copyright Act, there is a Trademarks Act, and through various judicial decisions, these personality rights have been guaranteed to us. So in one single statute, in one single law, that makes the statement incorrect. They are enforceable only through the Trademarks Act 1999 and not under constitutional law. Only through Trademarks Act? No. Through Copyright Act as well, and not under constitutional law. Why not? Under Article 21 as well, which is a constitutional law. So 2 and 3 is incorrect. Select the correct code from below. A, only 1 is the right answer. Let's look at question number 2. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding the doctrine of presumption of constitutionality? For example, in the recent order of the Supreme Court regarding the Waqf case, Supreme Court has invoked this doctrine again, presumption of constitutionality. What does that mean? Laws are enacted by the legislature, by the parliament, which consists of representatives elected by the people. And these representatives then are accountable to the public as well. So the assumption is that if these laws are enacted by the legislature, which is made up of the representatives of the people, and they are accountable to the people as well, these legislators will not enact a law which goes against the interest of the people. That is why the courts have invoked something called presumption of constitutionality. That means whenever such a law is challenged before the court will assume that the law is constitutional. It is for the petitioner to prove that the law is unconstitutional. But this presumption is only when a law is challenged, not when a rule is challenged. And the rules are made by executive. Executive includes permanent executive. For example, once you become the IAS officers or IPS officers, you will make rules, but you will be appointed. You are not elected by the people. So those rules which are made by the appointed individuals, there is no presumption of constitutionality there. According to this doctrine, the laws passed by legislature and the rules made by the executive are presumed to be constitutional when challenged before the courts. Not the rules made by the executive, but only the laws passed by the legislature. This doctrine was first invoked by the Supreme Court when the Waqf law was challenged in 2025. Select the correct code from below. D, neither 1 nor 2 is the right answer. In Kameshwar Singh v. State of Bihar, 1952, and then in Anwar Ali Sarkar, 1954, and then throughout various judgments of the court, the Supreme Court has consistently invoked this doctrine of the presumption of constitutionality. So it was not for the first time used in 2025 when the Waqf law was challenged. No, its origin dates back to 1950s. This is question number 2. Let's look at question number 3 and tell me what is the right answer. Which of the following statements is or are correct? The Vice President of India, because now we have a new Vice President of India, Mr. C.P. Radhakrishnan, who was previously the Governor of Maharashtra. The Vice President of India is elected by an electoral college consisting of only the elected members of both houses of the parliament. This statement is incorrect because the electoral college to elect the President of India includes nominated MPs as well, nominated MPs of the Rajya Sabha. That makes statement 1 incorrect. Now look at statement number 2, and this is where some of you may be confused. Are there grounds mentioned in the Constitution on the basis of which the Vice President can be removed from the office? No. Constitution under Article 67 says that the Vice President shall be removed if a resolution is passed by Rajya Sabha by the majority of all the then members of the House, which means effective majority, and agreed upon by the Lok Sabha, where the Lok Sabha will pass a resolution by simple majority. And that's how Vice President will be removed. But on what grounds? These grounds are not mentioned in the Constitution. On what grounds is the President of India impeached? Violation of the Constitution. On what grounds is the judge of the Supreme Court or High Court removed from the office? Proved misbehavior and incapacity. But the grounds on the basis of which the Vice President is removed is not mentioned. So what do you think statement 2 is? Is it correct? Incorrect? Statement 2 is correct. How, sir? Vice President of India can be removed. Can be removed from office on the grounds of proved misbehavior or incapacity. Can be removed, yes. The grounds are not mentioned. So on any ground, Vice President can be removed. On genuine grounds, it can be violation of the Constitution as well. It can be misbehavior as well. It can be violation of the rules as well. It can be corruption as well. So since the grounds are not mentioned, that makes it open-ended. On any reasonable ground, the Vice President can be removed. If the statement was, according to the Constitution, Vice President shall be removed on the grounds of proved misbehavior and incapacity, then this statement would be incorrect. But the statement is, Vice President of India can be removed from office on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. The statement is correct. So B, only 2 is the right answer. Clear? Let's look at question number 4. Ordinary laws enacted by the Parliament, state legislatures can be challenged in the courts on which of the following grounds? I'll give you 1 minute. Pause this video, look at the options, tell me what is the right answer. Parliament of India, it has 2 sets of powers. It has an ordinary lawmaking power and it has a constituent power as well. Sir, what does that mean? Parliament of India has the power to make ordinary laws on any item mentioned in the union list, on any item mentioned in the concurrent list as well. But then the same Parliament also has the power to amend the Constitution. So it can act like a constituent assembly and amend the Constitution subject to basic structure, obviously. So Parliament has the power, ordinary lawmaking power as well, and constituent power as well. But when the Parliament is amending the Constitution, this constitutional amendment bill can be challenged in the court on the grounds of violating the basic structure. But can ordinary laws be challenged in the court of law on the grounds of violating the basic structure? No. Only constitutional amendments can be challenged in the court on the grounds of violating the basic structure. Ordinary laws can be challenged if fundamental rights are violated, if the body which has enacted that law lacks the legislative competence, not the violation of the basic structure. So B, 1 and 2 is the right answer. So can you explain? Look at Article 13 of the Constitution. The state shall not enact any law to delete, modify, or abridge fundamental rights. And if that is done, that law shall be declared null and void. So clearly there is a limitation on the ordinary lawmaking powers of the parliament. You cannot make and enact an ordinary law violating the fundamental rights. Second, lack of legislative competence. For example, state legislature enacting a law on currency, on defense, on external affairs, on communication, on banking, on insurance. Can this law be challenged in the court? Yes. On what grounds? Because the state legislature does not have the competence to enact this law. Because in the distribution of powers, these subjects are with the union legislature. Similarly, if union legislature enacts a law which belongs in the domain of the state legislature, then that law also can be challenged. So long story short, an ordinary law can be challenged before the courts on the grounds of violating the fundamental rights, or on the grounds that the body, that the institution which has enacted this law lacks the legislative competence, not on the grounds of violating the basic structure. Only constitutional amendment acts can be challenged in the courts on the grounds of violating the basic structure. So only 1 and 2, B is the right answer. Let's look at question number 5. If you look at the last month's current affairs, an important article was written by Mr. Shailesh Gandhi, who was previously the Chief Information Commissioner, and he says that this Right to Information Act has now been transformed into Right to Deny Information Act. So RTI is now RDI. And you would know, under Right to Information, every public body has to appoint a public information officer. And if you need an information, this information needs to be furnished by this officer within 30 days. But if the information that you're seeking concerns the life and liberty of an individual, which means urgency, this information has to be shared by the public information officer within 48 hours. That's the key distinction that you will have to keep track of. Question number 5. Question number 6. Which of the following statements regarding defamation under Indian law is correct? Because now the court is reviewing whether defamation in India should remain only a civil offense and not a criminal offense, because right now it is both civil as well as criminal offense. And this was reiterated by the Supreme Court in 2016 in Subramaniam Swamy case, where the Supreme Court upheld the validity of the criminal defamation law in this country. But then there are some critics who say that this defamation law, criminal defamation law, is disproportionate. For example, this is the criminal defamation law that we have in India. It's a colonial law. And in Britain, defamation is no longer a criminal offense, it's only a civil offense. So the demand now is defamation should remain only a civil offense and not a criminal offense. That's where this topic becomes important. Defamation is only a civil wrong and cannot attract criminal liability in India. It's a criminal offense as well. Defamation cases can be filed by the government officials, not private individuals. Anybody can approach the court. Freedom of speech under Article 19(1)(a) provides complete immunity against defamation laws. You have freedom of speech and expression, but this freedom of speech and expression is under reasonable restrictions as well. So there are 8 reasonable restrictions: sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign countries, public order, morality or decency, incitement to an offense, contempt of court, defamation. So defamation clearly is a reasonable restriction on your free speech. But look at statement number 2. This is the right answer. Truth is an absolute defense in criminal defamation, but only under certain circumstances. Even if you are saying something which is truthful, even then you can be liable for sanction, for prosecution under criminal defamation law. So what are you saying? Truth is not a defense? Truth is not the absolute defense. But how? Then you have to prove before the court of law that even what you're saying, even if it is true, but it is in public interest for you to say it. If there is no public interest involved, even what you say, if it is true, even then you can be liable for criminal sanction under the defamation laws. Long story short, you have written something or you have said something, and if it is defaming me, even if it is true, you will have to convince the court that you saying it is helpful in the larger public interest. If it is not, then you are liable for criminal defamation. That is B. B is the right answer. Let's look at question number 7. Atrocities Act, for example, last month, an important judgment of the court in Kiran case, Supreme Court cancelled the anticipatory bail of an individual who was booked under Atrocities Act. Which of the following is a distinctive feature of the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 compared to ordinary criminal law? Ordinary criminal law, for example, you're accused of rape or murder or dacoity or terrorism. When you are accused, the burden of proof is not on you. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. The prosecution has to prove that to beyond any reasonable doubt that you are the one who has committed this crime. And only then the courts can punish you. That is why the lawyers, they struggle to find a reasonable doubt. And if they find a reasonable doubt, there is a reasonable doubt in the mind of the judge, and the judge can acquit you, even if there is a strong circumstantial evidence against you. But be that as it may, that will make it very technical if I would explain it. Long story short, there are other criminal laws where the burden of proof is on the prosecution. But this Atrocities Act, the burden of proof is on the accused. The accused has to prove that he is not guilty. It allows anticipatory bail to be granted in all cases. There is an explicit bar on anticipatory bail under Section 18 of the Atrocities Act. In fact, it's a non-bailable offense. When it's non-bailable, that means even anticipatory bail is not allowed. It requires a preliminary inquiry before an arrest can be made. Incorrect. It's a non-bailable offense, and immediate FIR, immediate arrest can take place under the Atrocities Act. Although previously in 2018, I guess, in Subhash Kashinath Mahajan case, the Supreme Court had said that there is a misuse of the Atrocities Act, and hence before an arrest can be made, there should be a preliminary inquiry by the police to see whether the offense of atrocities can be made out. And only after the written approval, written permission of the superintendent of the police or the DSP, the arrest can be made. But then it was overturned when Parliament amended Sections 18 of the Atrocities Act. So now there is no need for preliminary inquiry. It only covers offenses committed by the government officials. No, even offenses committed by private individuals, you are liable to be sanctioned and prosecuted under the Atrocities Act. The burden of proof is on the accused. This is where the burden of proof shifts. In normal criminal cases, it's on the prosecution. In this law, it is on the accused. And there are other laws as well. For example, under Prevention of the Money Laundering Act, PMLA, the burden of proof is on the accused. Similarly, under NDPS, Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, the burden of proof is on the accused, not on the prosecution. So there are some special laws where the burden of proof is on the accused, not on the prosecution. Let's look at question number 7. Which of the following best captures the constitutional significance of the Puttaswamy judgment? In Hindustan Times, a beautiful article was written where this judgment, Puttaswamy, and how this judgment overturned the ADM Jabalpur, the infamous ADM Jabalpur case of 1976. That's why this statement, this topic becomes important. In Puttaswamy case, in 2017, by the majority of 9:0, all the 9 judges of the Supreme Court said right to privacy is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. And thereby Supreme Court overruled previous judgments, for example, Kharak Singh judgment, MP Sharma judgment, and said right to privacy is guaranteed fundamental right under Article 21. So it recognized privacy as a mere statutory right, not a fundamental right. It was recognized as a fundamental right. It expanded the scope of Article 21 to include the right to privacy as intrinsic to life and personal liberty. So B is the right answer. Let's look at question number 8. Which of the following measures is most directly aimed at preserving the independence of judiciary in India? Lots and lots of newspaper articles, columns written on judiciary last month. Why? Because there was a dissent by Justice Nagaratna when Justice Pancholi, who was the Chief Justice of the Patna High Court, was elevated to the Supreme Court despite the objections leveled by and raised by Justice Nagaratna. So a lot of debate on judicial independence, judicial accountability, judicial constitutional morality. That's something that we have discussed in monthly current affairs video as well. Which of the following measures is most directly aimed at preserving the independence of judiciary? Government's power to transfer judges between high courts at its discretion. This would violate independence of judiciary. This will make judges directly subservient to the executive. Can't happen. Direct election of judges by citizens for the Supreme Court and High Court. There is no direct election. The judges are appointed by the president based on the recommendations of the collegium system. Appointment of judges solely by the Union Executive. There is a consultation with the Chief Justice of India, with the collegium, to ensure judicial independence. Parliament's power to remove judges through impeachment. This is where it becomes interesting. Judicial independence on one hand, and on the other hand, checks and balances. Dr. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly said that judges have to be given independence so that they are not under the influence of the other organs of the state. But at the same time, we need to keep a check on judges. And how do we keep a check on judges? Through appointment by the executive and removal by the executive based on the resolution passed by the parliament. And then you would also look at this statement, look at this term impeachment, and then you will say, sir, impeachment as a term is used only for the President of India. Every other constitutional functionary is removed. The judges are removed. Chief Election Commissioner is removed. CAG is removed. So sometimes, even if this term impeachment is used, that should not make you feel or believe that the statement is incorrect. So sometimes UPSC will tend to use impeachment and not removal. That doesn't mean the statement is incorrect. Parliament's power to remove judges through impeachment. Although it is not the parliament which is removing the judge, it is the president who is removing the judge, but based on the recommendations, based on the resolution passed by parliament. So sometimes in these questions, you don't have to pick the right answer. You'll have to pick the most appropriate answer. And the most appropriate answer is A. That's how A is the right answer. Clear? Let's look at question number 9. In India, the directive to separate judiciary from the executive appears as Article 50 of the Constitution. Separation of executive from the judiciary, which is part of the directive principles of the state policy. So is it a fundamental right enforceable under Article 32? No. Is it a justiciable mandate under Part 11, which talks about legislative relations between the union and the states? No. Is it an ordinary statutory obligation under the BNSS, Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita? Although this BNSS also talks about separation of executive from judiciary, but most appropriate answer is it is a directive principle under Article 50 of the Constitution. Question number 10. Consider the following statements. Salaries of the Supreme Court judges are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. Yes, not subject to the vote of the Parliament, charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. The salaries of the High Court judges are charged on the Consolidated Fund of the state. Correct. But what about pensions? Pensions of High Court judges as well as Supreme Court judges are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, not Consolidated Fund of the state. So which of these statements are correct? D, 1, 2, 3 is the right answer. Last question. Question 11. Match the items in column A with the relevant Supreme Court judgments in column B. It's about preamble. Why? Because now in Banu Mushtaq case, the Supreme Court has invoked basic structure again and reiterated that secularism is part of the basic structure of Indian Constitution. Preamble is not part of the Constitution. This was decided by the Supreme Court in the Berubari Union case. Preamble can be amended but subject to basic structure. Keshavananda Bharti. Socialism and secularism, apart from this term, integrity, these were added via 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. So 1C, 2A, 3B, CAB. A is the right answer. These are the 11 questions, a set of 11 questions from Polity. My colleagues will now discuss one by one MCQs from their respective subjects.
Hello students, welcome to the top 50 current affairs MCQs of the month. And now we shall take up the discussion of topics from international relations and internal security that were in the news in the month of September 2025. So we will be discussing 11 topics with 11 MCQs. Let's begin with the first question. Which places in Bhutan are being connected to India through new rail projects? Recently, the government of India has announced rail connectivity projects with Bhutan. That's why this particular question was picked. Now, before we look at the topic, let's try to solve this question. 4 places in Bhutan have been mentioned over here: Paro, Gelugfu, Samtse and Paro. Amongst the given options, 2 and 3 are the correct options. So option C becomes the right answer. These are the 2 cities in Bhutan which are being connected with Indian cities in Assam and in West Bengal. So let's look at these upcoming railway projects, which is going to be of great economic and even strategic significance for India-Bhutan relations. See, India has always invested in the infrastructure development of Bhutan, right from 1950s and 1960s. Today, Bhutan is developing the Gelugfu Mindfulness City, which is coming up right over here along the Indian border that faces Assam. So Kokrajhar, which is the Bodo region of Assam, is being directly connected with this railway line. Then from West Bengal, we have Banarhat, which is barely a few kilometers from the Bhutanese border, which is being directly connected to Samtse through a new railway link. You can see the details of the railway project. The first railway link spans around 69 kilometers in length, and the second link is hardly around 20 kilometers in length. This project is fully funded by India. It will significantly boost the trade opportunities for Bhutan, because Bhutan depends heavily on India. It's a landlocked country. It depends on India for all the key supplies and key essential imports, and also to trade with other third countries. It relies upon Indian ports. So this railway project will boost the trade relationship between the 2 countries. It could increase Indian investments in Bhutan as well, especially at the Gelugfu Mindfulness City, where Bhutan is building a smart city focused on innovation. Bhutan is also setting up an industrial hub at Samatse. That's why these 2 cities and towns have been chosen for this railway connectivity project. This could even create opportunities for India's youth, particularly in the northeastern states, to find opportunities in Bhutan. Now let's move on to the next topic. Let's look at the second question. Which of the following statements about the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are correct? The SCO was in the news because last month the SCO summit was hosted by China and India participated at the SCO summit. After nearly 5 years, Prime Minister Modi traveled to China, met with Chinese Premier Xi Jinping, and some landmark discussions were held between India, China and the other SCO members. So let's look at the statements. SCO originated as Shanghai 5 before expanding to include India and Pakistan. The SCO covers more than 40% of the world's population. Iran is a full member of SCO since 2020. It is headquartered in Tianjin, China. Statement 1 and 2. Both the statements are absolutely correct, and I will provide you the explanation, don't worry about it. But statement 3 and 4 are incorrect because Iran joined as a full-time member of SCO in 2023, not in 2020. And SCO is headquartered in Beijing, not Tianjin. Tianjin is where the 2025 summit was held. So 3 and 4 are incorrect. 1 and 2 only. Option A becomes your correct answer. Now look at the SCO. It's one of the most important groupings that brings the Eurasian countries and countries from South Asia together. Russia, China are obviously the leaders of this group, and its history, its origin goes back to 1996 when it was established as the Shanghai Five, led by Russia, China, along with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Then in 2001, the group got a new member with Uzbekistan joining the organization, and the Shanghai Five became the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's how the SCO was born in 2001. So it consisted of 6 members then. Later, India, Pakistan, which were observers to SCO, they were admitted as full members in 2017 at the Astana summit. Recently, Iran and Belarus both have been admitted as members in 2023 and 2024 respectively. So these are the members of SCO. This organization is a political, economic and security based grouping focused on Central Asia, Eurasia and the South Asia region. It's growing in its profile every year. It is seen as a platform for Russia, China to push their anti-West propaganda. So that's where it becomes a challenge for India. But for India, there are a lot of advantages with SCO. For example, for counter-terrorism, there is a dedicated platform called the RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure. And India brought up the Pahalgam terror attack at the SCO summit. So India can use this platform to focus on connectivity with Central Asia, to improve economic ties with these member countries, and even to counter terrorism, as Pakistan is also a part of it. And it's one of the largest groupings today. In terms of geographical area, if you put the members together, they account for more than 24% of the world's geographical area. With regard to the global population, they account for nearly 42% of the global population. That's why statement 2 is correct. The group does account for more than 40% of the world population. So these are some basic facts that you must be familiar with. Now let's look at the third question. Last month, there were few important military exercises that were in the news in which India participates. So on the left, we have the names of these military exercises. On the right, the partner countries of India have been mentioned. So you have to check which of the pairs are correctly matched. Yudh Abhyas has been matched with France. Zapad military exercise matched with Qatar. Maitri military exercise matched with Sri Lanka. See, all the 3 pairs are incorrect. All the 3 are incorrectly matched. So option D, none of the above, is the correct answer. Why? Because Yudh Abhyas is a bilateral army exercise between India and United States. Recently, a contingent of Indian Army, they traveled to Alaska, where the latest edition of Yudh Abhyas was held. So this exercise has been taking place since 2004 between Indian Army and the US Army, and it focuses on counter-terrorism and building interoperability between our forces. The Zapad exercise is a multilateral exercise hosted by Russia. Recently, Russia brought Belarus and many other countries together to hold a multilateral exercise. Even India was invited, and India participated in the Zapad exercise. An Indian contingent comprising of soldiers from the Army, Air Force and Navy were sent, and this triggered a lot of controversy, and European countries especially were critical of India's participation because the Zapad exercise is designed by Russia to be primarily an anti-NATO military exercise. It is designed to be an anti-West military exercise. More than 20 countries took part in this multilateral exercise led by Russia, and participation of India became a controversy as European countries, they criticized India's participation. The other countries under the Zapad exercise include China, even Pakistan, Bangladesh as well, United Arab Emirates, North Korea and the others. Then coming to Maitri. Maitri is a bilateral exercise between India and Thailand, not with Sri Lanka. The Indian Army and the Royal Thai Army have been conducting this regular army exercise since 2006. So all three are incorrectly matched. None of the above is the right answer. Next, question number 4. The Malacca Straits Patrol is aimed at safeguarding the security of the Strait of Malacca and as well as the Strait of Singapore. It was established in 2001 under India's leadership. Which of the statements is or are correct? Now, this topic was in the news because last month Singapore's Prime Minister visited India. It's in this context that the topic is of great importance. The Malacca Strait Patrol is an initiative that was started between Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. These three countries, which are present around the Malacca Strait and Strait of Singapore, they started this initiative. Because please understand, the Malacca Strait, which you can see here in the map, and the Strait of Singapore over here, these are critical choke points as far as maritime trade is concerned. According to data, almost 70% of Asia's oil trade passes through the Strait of Malacca and Strait of Singapore. Almost 50% of global trade in terms of tonnage passes through this critical choke point. So to deal with the maritime security threats such as piracy, organized crime, etc., Indonesia, Singapore and Malaysia started this security initiative known as the Malacca Straits Patrol. Later, Thailand also joined the initiative. Thailand also joined later. The initiative was started in 2004 between Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia, and few years later Thailand also became a participant. Now recently India has expressed interest to take part in the Malacca Straits Patrol. Singapore has shown support for India's inclusion, so maybe in the coming months or by next year, India might be included as one of the participating countries under the Malacca Straits Patrol. So under this maritime initiative, there are three separate components. There is a sea patrol component where the navies, they patrol these waters to safeguard the trade route. There is also Eyes in the Sky initiative for maritime air patrols and aerial surveillance using surveillance aircrafts. And there is an intelligence exchange group where the members, they exchange the intelligence to safeguard these waters. So very soon India is expected to join because Singapore has given full support for India's entry into the Malacca Straits Patrol. Now let's look at question number 5. Which of the following countries were recently affected by the Gen Z protests? The options include Indonesia, Nepal and Morocco. All the three countries have been hit by a wave of protests, which the media is labeling as Gen Z protests. In all the three countries, there has been a lot of anger, especially amongst the youth, amongst the younger generation, with regard to the rampant corruption, the lack of development, and the richness of the elite class. In Nepal, the regime itself was toppled. In Indonesia, there were widespread violent protests against the payments that are made to the elected members. In Morocco, large-scale riots have broken out with regard to government excessive spending on the upcoming World Cup and other sporting events, whereas the common people are struggling for basic necessities. So across all these three countries, the younger generation, particularly the Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2010, they have taken the lead to express their anger and resentment. And experts are comparing this with the Arab Spring movement that the Middle East, North Africa region had seen back in 2010-2011. And also these protests are primarily fueled through social media based organization. So that's why this topic is important. 1, 2 and 3. All three are correct. Option D becomes the correct answer. Question number 6. India and Saudi Arabia are part of which military exercises? Sada Tanseek, Nasim al-Bahr, al-Muhaid al-Hind. This topic is in the news because Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have signed a defense pact. A strategic mutual defense agreement has been signed between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, under which they are bringing the principle of collective defense, similar to the principle of collective defense that you see with the NATO military alliance, meaning Pakistan would assist Saudi Arabia in case of any security threats and vice versa. So this is in the context of the developments of West Asia region, especially after Israel attacked Qatar. It tried targeting the Hamas leadership in Doha, thus violating the sovereignty of an Arab nation. So this brought all the Arab countries together to condemn Israel's acts, its act of aggression and violation of sovereignty of other countries. When other Arab countries were negotiating a possible alliance or a coalition to counter Israel, Saudi Arabia has moved away from them and has struck a security agreement separately with Pakistan, where Pakistan is guaranteeing collective defense to Saudi Arabia. This potentially could have implications for India as well, because that could draw Saudi Arabia into a conflict between India and Pakistan. But however, India and Saudi enjoy very close strategic and defense relations as well. So it's in that context I have chosen this question. Now, what is the right answer here? 1 and 3. That is option D. That is the correct answer. Sada Tanseek is an exercise between the two armies. Al Mohed Al Hindi is a naval exercise between Indian Navy and the Navy of Saudi Arabia, whereas Nasim Al Bahar is a military exercise between India and Oman. So second one is incorrect. That's why option D, 1 and 3 is the right answer. Next, question number 7 related to H-1B visa. Donald Trump delivered a big shock to the Indian community in the United States by levying a very high fee of $1 lakh. It also created a lot of confusion, and the US is basically reforming its immigration policies, particularly related to the H-1B visa, which can significantly impact the Indian economy. So based on this, let's look at a question. Indian students go for higher studies in the USA on H-1B visa. Over 95% of these visas are allotted to Indian workers. Even illegal migrants are eligible provided they meet certain conditions. You can pause the screen, read the question carefully and try to answer the question. See, please understand, H-1B visa is primarily a work visa. A US Congress Act was brought out in 1990s to allow for foreign skilled workers and migrant professionals to come into the United States, especially in the STEM domain, science, technology, engineering, mathematics domain, to bring specialized skills into the American economy, to contribute to America's industries. So this does not apply for Indian students. Indian students who go to the US to study in American universities for higher education, they apply for the F1 visa. This is a student visa. H-1B is a work visa. So statement 1 becomes incorrect. Indians are the largest recipients of H-1B visa. There is a quota based system which is essentially selected through a lottery system. Around 85,000 visas are given out. That is the annual cap, but it can be increased as well. In the last few years, Indian workers are cornering most of the H-1B visas. Almost 72% of the visas are being allocated to Indian professional workers. So it's not 95%. Statement 2 is also incorrect. And the last statement is obviously absurd. This is a visa meant for those who have good education, good skills, and can earn a high-paying job in the US. Obviously, illegal migrants would not be eligible even if they meet any criteria or condition. Statement 3 is also incorrect. Option D, none of the above, becomes the correct answer. Now let's move to question number 8. What are the requirements under international law to recognize a state? This is in the context of Palestine getting statehood recognition by several countries, even Western countries. So look at the question. There are 5 options given. So let's understand how a new state can be recognized. What are the parameters required to be met under international law for the recognition of a new state? So as I told you, several Western countries like Canada, Australia, UK, France, even Portugal, and many others who are aligned with US, who have been allies of Israel, they have taken a stand and they have recognized Palestine in order to bring pressure on Israel to end the Gaza conflict. So that's the reason why this topic is in news. So for recognizing a state, there is a convention, the Montevideo Convention of 1933. This lays down the parameters for recognizing a new state. These parameters include a defined territory. There should be a well-defined territory with well-established boundaries for a state to be given recognition. There should be a permanent population residing in that territory, inhabiting that territory. There should be a functional government or an authority which is seen as the legitimate administration of the territory. And finally, this authority should have the capability to enter into relations with other states, with other countries. If these four criteria can be met, a state can be recognized as per international law. Now, going back to the question, the second option is not one of the criteria. There is no requirement that there should be a recognized flag or an anthem. That is obvious for any sovereign state. So 1, 3, 4, 5 would be the correct choice. And again, option D here would be the right answer for this question. Now, moving to question number 9. The GERD project, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. This project has been in the news because it has triggered a diplomatic dispute over water sharing and water management between few African countries. So which countries are part of the dispute surrounding the GERD project? These are your options. So if you have heard about the GERD dam, it's one of the world's largest dam and hydroelectric power project built by Ethiopia. And the other countries which stand to be affected with the project include Sudan and Egypt, as they are present in the downstream of the Nile River on which the GERD dam has been constructed. So last month, the project has become operational and it has triggered a diplomatic dispute between these three countries. So option A is your correct answer: Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. So just look at the alignment of the project as well. Be familiar with the alignment so that if at all there is a geography-based, map-based question, you should be able to answer that one. So here you can see the White Nile and the Blue Nile, and this dam has been built by Ethiopia on the Blue Nile River. From here, the water flows into Sudan and it merges with the White Nile near Khartoum in Sudan. And from here, it flows down into Egypt. Egypt has a lot of dependency on the Nile River. Almost 90% of Egypt's freshwater requirement is met through the Nile River. So this mega dam built by Ethiopia could affect water flow downstream in Sudan and Egypt. And that's why there is an objection by these countries. Now moving on to the next question, question number 10. Now we are moving towards the security topics related to internal security. Agni Prime missile or Agni P is a two-staged solid fuel propelled missile. It can be launched from road and rail based mobile platforms. Mobile launch platforms enhance the survivability during a first nuclear strike. See, India carried out a very important missile test, the DRDO, which has developed the Agni Prime or Agni P. It has been designed to provide India a greater nuclear deterrence, to basically establish its credible minimum deterrence. Because as per India's nuclear doctrine, we have a no first strike policy, no first use policy, which means there could be a possible first attack on India. And during such a first strike, the adversary would like to take out India's nuclear arsenal and the delivery systems. So we need those nuclear weapon systems and delivery platforms which can survive the first strike. And survivability can be ensured by having a diverse set of delivery platforms. We have the Agni series of ballistic missiles, Agni 1, 2, 3, 5, etc. Right? Then we have the fighter jets like Sukhoi, Rafale and the others, which can deliver nuclear weapons through the air. And we also have the nuclear triad, the underwater capability through the Arihant class of submarines, which can remain submerged and thereby safeguard our nuclear arsenal from a first strike. Now, Agni P fits into this calculation of India. Agni Prime is a mobile missile system. It has the capability to be launched from road, where it is mounted on trucks, and these trucks can be mobile, thus avoiding enemy surveillance and detection. And the test which was carried out few days back, it is a rail-based launcher that was tested. So the missile can be fitted on a rail track and it can be easily launched, and it can remain mobile, moving across the country. You can hide it in tunnels, underground tunnels, to keep it away from enemy surveillance, especially aerial and satellite surveillance. Very few countries have the capability to launch ballistic missiles through a rail-based launcher. US, Russia, China, North Korea, only these countries had the capability. Now India has established and proven this capability as well, which strengthens our nuclear deterrence. So based on this, you can easily answer this question. The first statement, second and third, all the three statements are correct. 1, 2 and 3. Option D is the right answer. When your nuclear systems are mobile, they have a higher chances of survival during a first strike, thus guaranteeing a second strike, which in turn creates your credible minimum deterrence. Now coming to the last question, the last topic. The NCRB has released the Crime India report for 2023, which is a very important report as far as crime statistics is concerned. So let's look at the question. According to NCRB's Crime in India report for 2023, overall crime rate per lakh population has increased as compared to 2022. UPSC tends to ask such trend-based questions. In 2023, India recorded a slight dip in murder cases, while cybercrime saw a significant increase. The report specifically tracks crimes against SCs and STs. Which of the statements are incorrect? Always read the question carefully. That's why I've highlighted incorrect here for your convenience, but in the exam, there won't be any such highlight. You have to read the statement carefully. See, all the three given statements are correct. If you look at the crime rate per lakh population, it has increased. In 2022, it was around 422 crimes per lakh population. In 2023, it has increased to 448. So statement 1 is right. There is an increase in crime rate per lakh population. Second statement is also correct. The number of murders, it has seen a slight dip by around 2.8% from 2022 to 2023. But cyber crimes has seen a significant jump, almost 31% increase in cyber crimes. So statement 2 is also right. Statement 3, which says that the report specifically tracks crimes against SCs, STs, this is also correct. NCRB looks at crimes and offences being committed against the vulnerable communities, such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, even crimes against women and children. They are separately documented. So such data is very, very valuable for lawmakers and policy makers. So since all the statements are correct, the correct answer would be none of the above, because none of them are incorrect. The question is asking you to identify the incorrect statements. Now, in the next two slides, I have given you all the static information regarding NCRB, the National Crime Records Bureau, which is under the Home Ministry, and as well as some key findings of the 2023 report, which is the latest report. Please go through them later. You can take screenshots and you can try to go through these key points so that you are familiar with the data as well, and also the facts related to the National Crime Records Bureau. On this note, I bring my brief discussion to an end. Now I'll hand over the discussion to Sham sir. So please stay tuned.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this particular session of the monthly current affairs, wherein the top 50 MCQs on the different current affairs topics are being discussed. Let's have a look at the top 11 topics from the subject of Indian economy as well as the MCQs associated with that. Let me start. The question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding the GST Appellate Tribunal. There are 3 statements. We'll look at the statements later, don't worry. The concept of GST Appellate Tribunal has been there in the discussion. The Finance Minister very recently has launched the GST Appellate Tribunal. Now, what is the importance of the GST Appellate Tribunal? From the 1st July 2017, the government implemented the concept of goods and services taxation, wherein the different indirect taxes from the center as well as the states have been subsumed. Despite implementing this kind of a reform, there has been one lacune, one problem with the system. That is, if there is a dispute, then which kind of authority will basically address these kinds of disputes? Earlier, at the state level, there were different state level appellate authorities which would handle the disputes in the context of the VAT as well as the sales tax. And at the central level, there was an authority by the name of Sestat. That is essentially the appellate tribunal for central excise sales taxes. But the problem has been that these kind of appellate tribunals are working at a different level. There is no harmony between both of them, and the presence of these particular tribunals is not uniform throughout the India. And because there is, right, let's say, or there are too many cases, too many, let's say, the applications or the appeals, etc., lot of the money gets stuck up in the system. The government of India, in order to address these particular issues in the context of indirect taxation, had announced a GST appellate tribunal, and finally the GST appellate tribunal has been let's say established or inaugurated by the finance minister very recently. Now, what are the important points associated with the GST appellate tribunal? The principal bench of the GST appellate tribunal will be set up in Delhi. Throughout the states and union territories, there will be 31 benches. In each of these particular 31 benches, there will be 4 members, that is 2 judicial members and 2 technical members. 1 each, that is the technical member, 1 each from the center as well as the state. And these GST appellate tribunals are expected to take up these particular cases associated or the disputes associated with the GST and resolve these particular disputes in a faster manner, thereby unlocking the capital which is stuck up, reducing the, let's say, the stress on the GST system. It is a constitutional body like the GST Council. Please understand, the GST Appellate Tribunal is not a constitutional body. The provision of that has been provided under the GST Act. So, first statement incorrect. It will have only judicial members. This is also incorrect. This statement is also incorrect. Why? It has 2 judicial members, 2 technical members. GST 80 e-codes. This is basically a platform which has been developed, right? So, e-filing system, or let's say e-system, electronic system that has been developed. So, GST e-codes has been developed by NIC, that is National Informatics Center, and GST Network. This particular statement is absolutely true. So, third statement is correct. First and second statements are incorrect. How many of them are correct? Option A, only one of the 3 statements is correct. Question number 2. This is on the concept of external commercial borrowing. In the last couple of days, right, there were articles, different articles associated with ECB, including some of the articles which appeared in the newspapers 10 days ago as well. That is in the month of September. What is this idea of an ECB? Right? ECB basically stands for external commercial borrowing. Right? External commercial borrowing. What is the meaning of an external commercial borrowing? Indian entities are allowed to borrow from the external market. They are allowed to borrow in different ways from the external market. It could be in the form of loans, it could be in the form of, right, let's say bonds, etc. So, when Indian companies borrow from the external market, this is essentially called as external commercial borrowing. Who regulates this particular concept of an ECB? Regulation is done by Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Right? RBI will basically say in which sector, how much, for what purpose you are allowed to bring in the money in the form of external commercial borrowing. Essentially, there are 2 ways to bring in ECB into India. One is called as an automatic route. Second one is called as an approval route. Second one is approval route. Under automatic route, essentially you do not require any kind of permission. You can simply bring in the money. That is now $750 million. Up to this amount you can bring in annually, by the way, up to $750 million. So, under automatic, you do not require any permission, bring in the dollars and invest in India. Again, I am saying how or what purposes, the end usage, etc. is determined by Reserve Bank of India. And under the approval route, you will have to take the permission. Before you bring in, you have to take the permission, right? So, this is basically the concept of external commercial borrowing. Now, in fact, very recently the Reserve Bank of India has announced a set of reforms where they want to restructure or revamp the concept of external commercial borrowing. For example, RBI is asking, should we continue to allow $750 million per annum, or should we extrapolate it, expand it to around $1 billion? Right, $1 billion should we allow you to bring in. So that kind of a proposal is being put forward by Reserve Bank of India. If it changes, we will have a look at it later. Please don't worry. And before I go forward, if you're liking this particular initiative, please do not forget to hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the video section, and if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Let's start. Under this route, the rate of interest is fixed by Reserve Bank of India. Understand this carefully. Under the ECB route, RBI doesn't fix the rate of interest. Until now, again, I'm exempting or I'm not including the proposal because it is still the proposal, by the way. Reserve Bank of India will fix a ceiling, that is the highest rate of interest. Right, based on what kind of borrowing you're doing, there is a ceiling that is determined. Ceiling, that is the maximum rate of interest that you're allowed to pay under the ECB. But RBI doesn't specifically determine what is the rate of interest that you will have to pay. Then everybody is okay. For example, let's say you are taking an international, let's say foreign currency loan. In that particular case, RBI can simply say it has to be LIBOR plus, let's say, a certain percentage. So as the LIBOR changes, automatically the rate of interest, that is the maximum rate of interest that you're allowed to pay, will change. But RBI doesn't specifically say you will have to pay 4% or 5% or 6%. RBI doesn't fix the interest rate. It merely fixes the ceiling. The ECB is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. Yes, the masala bonds are covered under the ECB. Under ECB, you can borrow either in the foreign currency, foreign convertible currencies, or you can borrow in the domestic currency, that is essentially in the form of rupees. For example, masala bonds. Masala bonds are rupee denominated debt instruments which are issued in the overseas market. That is, I'm taking a bond, issuing it in the USA market, but I'm collecting the money in the form of rupees and I'm repaying the money in the form of rupees. So the rupee denominated bonds which are issued in the overseas, these are nothing but masala bonds. So masala bonds are covered under the ECBs. Yes. Second and third statements are true. Right option will be option B, right, for question number 2. Let me go to question number 3 now. Consider the following statements regarding the Clearing Corporation of India Limited. Clearing Corporation of India Limited. Now, why it is there in the discussion? Listen to me very carefully. The Clearing Corporation of India Limited, the CCIL. CCIL is there in the newspaper for a very simple reason, that it has completed 25 years. It has completed 25 years. That is, it was established back in the year 2001. Right, the ownership, I'll come to that particular point. The CCIL is one of the market infrastructure institutions. Remember the term, it is one of the market infrastructure institutions, MIIs. What is a market infrastructure institutions? It basically represents a set of institutions which are ensuring that the whole market will function efficiently. For example, let's take a stock market. Now, stock market, generally what you see is buying and selling. But my dear, don't you think for buying and selling to happen, there has to be somebody who will facilitate the buying and selling, that is the exchange. Somebody has to issue the securities, that is in the form of a demat. Somebody has to ensure the settlement of the transaction will happen, that is the securities are transferred into one demat account, money is transferred to the seller's account, etc. So there are different types of stakeholders or financial institutions which will ensure the whole setup or the whole system in the market actually functions efficiently. These are very critical for the financial market to operate. If one collapses, it will have a huge impact on the whole financial market. And that is basically the concept of market infrastructure institutions. Example, clearing corporations. Example, stock exchanges, etc. Right. So one of them, clearing corporation, you have clearing corporation of India Limited. This was set up back in the year 2001, and this is basically completing 25 years or entering into 25 years. That's the reason this is there in the newspaper. Be very careful. It is part of the market infrastructure institutions. Yes, statement 1 is correct. It was set up back in the year 2001. Absolutely correct. It is completely owned by the government. Looking at this, right, most of you might simply feel, yes, the statement is true, but my dear, absolutely no. The ownership of clearing corporation is not with the government. There are different types of financial institutions, for example, the banks, SBI, right, ICICI, etc., which have ownership in the clearing corporation. It is not owned by the government of India. So, third statement is incorrect. Question number 3, the right option will be 1 and 2 are correct. Right option will be option B here. Okay. Let me go to question number 4 now. Consider the following statements regarding the Infrastructure Investment Trust, that is INVIT. Infrastructure Investment Trust, that is concept of INVIT. Why it was there in the discussion? Simple, two reasons. One, right, the SEBI which regulates the Infrastructure Investment Trust, because understand there are two types of investment, new types of investment models. One is Real Estate Investment Trust and the other one is Infrastructure Investment Trust. What is essentially the model here? Simple. The issuers of right, these will issue the instruments, will collect the money and invest only in real estate projects. That is basically called as a Real Estate Investment Trust. And the issuers of this issue the, right, let's say units, collect the money, and if they invest, right, basically in other infrastructure, for example roads, right, and other infrastructure and not the real estate, then traditionally this is called as Infrastructure Investment Trust. Now very recently SEBI has made two very important changes. One, SEBI has recognized that real estate investment trust, that is the units which are issued, will be treated as equity. Will be treated as equity, that is basically shares. What about the Infrastructure Investment Trust? SEBI even today simply says Infrastructure Investment Trust are nothing but hybrid instruments which will carry certain features of the equity as well as the debt instrument. So, REIT, I will use the short form now, REIT are treated as equity now, whereas InvITs will be continued to be treated as, right, let us say the hybrid instruments. That is one. And second one is InvIT subscription threshold has been cut to promote investor participation. That is, whenever you go for a private placement, that is rather than listing them, if you try to sell it to, let's say, group of investors, until now the minimum subscription means how much money you are supposed to pay, minimum amount that you are supposed to pay or invest to get the InvITs. Again I am saying private placement was 1 crore rupees. Now this has been reduced to 25 lakh rupees. Again, this is applicable in the context of private placement. Now, what are the important statements given here and what is the answer to that? Let's start. Consider the following statements regarding InvIT. InvITs are regulated by SEBI. Yes, the statement is correct. Second, InvITs can be privately placed or listed in the market. I just now have told you. That is, a private placement means rather than right issuing it to the market, that is where any one of us can purchase apart from other investors. When you go for a private placement, certain group of investors are offered these instruments and they will purchase the instruments, right? That is basically a private placement. So, InvITs can be privately placed as well as the listed. Yes, InvITs are classified as equity by SEBI. This is incorrect now. InvITs are not classified as equity by SEBI. These are basically classified as hybrid instruments, whereas the REITs have been classified as, right, let's say equity by SEBI now. So, in this particular case, first and the second statements are true. Right option will be option B. Only, right, 2 of the 3 statements are correct. Let me go to question number 5 now. Consider the following statements regarding unclaimed deposits. Unclaimed deposits. Now, why it is there in the discussion? In the month of September, there was one article which basically discussed Reserve Bank of India, right, asking the banks to again address the issue of unclaimed deposits. That is, there are too many unclaimed deposits in the banking sector, right? The banks should basically promote the customers to take back these particular unclaimed deposit. Now, what is the meaning of unclaimed deposit? Let's say I'll keep a fixed deposit in a bank and I'll forget it, right? The fixed deposit maturity period is over. After maturity period, it's been 5 years, it's been 7 years, it's been 10 years. Now, right, if I do not claim the money back from the account, if I do not claim the money back from my, right, let's say the bank like this, that case it is basically classified as unclaimed deposit. Unclaimed deposits can be, right, basically in the form of savings bank accounts, can be the term deposits, that is the fixed deposits, right, that is it can be in the form of current accounts as well. So, whenever you do not use these kind of deposits and they remain without any claims for a period of 10 years with the bank, these are classified as unclaimed. And the unclaimed deposits are transferred by the banks to the fund that is maintained by Reserve Bank of India. There is basically a fund called as Deposit Awareness, Depositors Education and Awareness Fund. And once the banks will transfer this particular money into the fund, the Reserve Bank of India will be utilizing these particular funds for creating awareness, for generating awareness to the bank customers. But what RBI now says is, these particular unclaimed deposits, the value is too much. In fact, RBI last year has launched a portal. You can use this particular portal to find out how much unclaimed deposits you have in a bank. Apply for claiming back the unclaimed deposit. Now, once this particular deposit has been classified as unclaimed, does the bank stop providing you interest? Absolutely no. For the time period, for whatever time period you have not claimed the deposit, for that time period, you will not only receive the principal amount as well as the interest amount, right? So, these are certain very important points associated with the discussion over the unclaimed deposit in the last 1 month. It covers only the term deposits and savings bank accounts which remain unclaimed for a period of 5 years. This is incorrect. First and foremost, it covers savings bank account, it covers term deposits, it also covers the current accounts as well. So, not just for 5 years, but for 10 years. The unclaimed deposits are transferred to the Deposit Education and Awareness Fund. Yes, this particular statement is correct. This is basically referred to as a DEA fund, Deposit Education and Awareness Fund. The customers can claim the principal amount along with the interest on these particular deposits. Yes, the statement is also true. But please look at the last part of the question here. How many of the above statements is or are incorrect? You are supposed to find how many are incorrect. So, first one is incorrect, second and third are correct. Right option for question number 5 will be option A. Let me go forward now. Question number 6. Consider the following statements regarding the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board, PNGRB. Now, why PNGRB has been there in the discussion, and as such, PNGRB has been one favorite area of UPSC in the preliminary examination. That is different types of regulatory bodies under the Government of India. PNGRB is a statutory body. It has been set up by the government with the passage of an act back in the year 2006. The PNGRB essentially is involved in all the issues associated. For example, again when I say all, there is a certain point to be mentioned here. I will come to that. For example, PNGRB looks at let's say natural gas, that is let's say the processing of it, or for that matter petroleum, the marketing of it, the storage, right, the distribution, etc. Petroleum, petroleum reserves, crude, right, the natural gas, etc. But please understand, when I say all the things associated, I said a hashtag. What is the meaning of hashtag? PNGRB is involved in marketing of it. It is involved in the processing of it, right? The storage, transportation of it, etc. But let's say the allocation of the oil fields, right? The production of the oil, natural gas, etc. That is generally under the control of the Ministry of the Natural Gas or respective Ministry of Petroleum. It is not under the PNGRB. But no doubt PNGRB reports to the ministry, right? So why it was there in the newspaper very recently? It was there in the newspaper in the context of a proposal which it has put forward to basically promote LPG deliveries. LPG deliveries, that is, it simply says there is a lot of complaints regarding the delay in providing the LPG cylinders to the customers or the users. According to the provisions right now, you are supposed to provide the LPG cylinder within 48 hours after your booking is confirmed. But majority of the complaints that is received by this particular authority is associated with delays in providing the LPG cylinders. So it has given a proposal to basically cut down the time period. Now it simply says any oil marketing company, it could be British Petroleum, it could be Hindustan Petroleum, anybody who is selling in that particular region or a supplier basically will supply to you if your original supplier cannot give the cylinder in 24 hours. Right? If they cannot supply in 24 hours, your original supplier, then the other supplier, the second oil marketing company, will ensure that you will get the cylinder after 24 hours of delay. Right? So that is a proposal. Now come back to the question here. It has been set up through the executive resolution of the Indian government. Incorrect. I have told you this. It is set up as a statutory body with the passage of PNGRB Act of 2006. It functions under the Ministry of Industries and Commerce. No. Petroleum and natural gas. PNGRB regulates refining, production and exploration activities of petroleum and natural gas. I have told you this. Right. Let's say refining. Yes, of course, yes. But right, let's say the production as well as exploration activities, no, it is under the ministry. The power is there with the ministry, not with the PNGRB. So third statement is also incorrect. So question number 6, the right option for the question will be option D, none of the above. Let me go forward now. Question number 7. Consider the following statements. The GST Council has members from all the states and union territories. The inverted duty leads to blockade of working capital. The GST on insurance has been 0 rated. All these 3 statements are purely from current affairs with what has happened in the recent times. That is, the government of India very recently unveiled or proposed and implemented a GST 2.0. Under GST 2.0, what is the logic here? The government of India has rationalized, although I am saying government of India, please remember, the GST Council is a very important participant. So GST 2.0 has been implemented, which is nothing but a rationalization exercise conducted by the government. Now, before I go forward, I want one answer from all of you. When they say rationalization of GST, what do they mean by it? Do let me know the answer to this particular question in the comments section of the video. I'll repeat the question for your benefit. When they say rationalization of GST, what do they actually mean by the term rationalization of GST? I'll be waiting for your answer in the comment section. Let me go forward. So GST 2.0 has been implemented. Under this, the number of slabs have been reduced. Compared to earlier system, the number of slabs have been cut down now. But with the reduction in the number of slabs, what we are expecting is, right, we are also expecting more ease of doing business. EODB, more of ease of doing business. Right, so it was in that particular context, that is a GST 2.0, that all these particular statements were there in the newspaper. Let's go one by one. The GST Council has members from all the states and union territories. Underline the term union territories. Please understand this. GST Council is a representation of cooperative federalism. It has the representation of the center as well as the states. But the union territories which will have the legislature, only they are present in the council. Right, I'll repeat the statement. Only those which have a legislature will have a representation on the council. So all the union territories individually are represented on this. No, this is incorrect. The inverted duty leads to the blockade of working capital. Inverted duty essentially means what? The taxes that you pay on the inputs to the government is basically much higher compared to the taxes that you collect on the output and transfer it to government. That is, in simple terms, if I purchase plastic, I pay 12 rupees to the government, that is a GST. I will sell the marker to the buyer in the market. I will collect 10 rupees from the buyer. This particular situation where the taxes on the input is greater than the output is called as inverted duty structure. Whenever there is an inverted duty structure which is present even to a certain extent right now, whenever it is present, it basically leads to blockade. Blockade means you will not be able to receive this particular input tax credit for a certain time period. You may not be in a position to use this input tax credit for a certain time period, etc. So your precious capital will get stuck up in the system for a certain time period. That is basically the statement here, which is correct. The GST on insurance has been zero rated. What is the meaning of zero rated? Please remember, zero rated and exempted. There are two terms here, zero rated and exempted. Zero rated simply means the whole supply chain of insurance, there will be 0% of the GST collected. That is, 0 rupees will be collected in the whole supply chain of insurance. Whereas exempted means when the insurance is sold to the consumer, that is when the final good or service is sold to the consumer, that sales will attract 0% GST. The insurance right now has been exempted, not zero rated. Sir, where is the zero rating done? For example, under RODTEP, there is zero rating. Or SEZ, Special Economic Zones, there is zero rating. Again, I'll repeat, zero rating means there is no tax in the whole supply chain. Whereas exempted means only on the final sales, that is when the final good or service is sold, that will attract 0% tax. So insurance is exempted, not zero rated right now. So the statement simply says the GST on insurance has been zero rated. No, this is incorrect. First and third are incorrect, second one is correct. Right option for question number 7 will be option A. Let me go to question number 8 now. Consider the following statements. The government has prohibited FDI in operations of all the types of ATMs. There are different types of ATMs in India. For example, we have white label ATMs. We have brown label ATMs. Listen to me very carefully. The Reserve Bank of India, which is a market regulator, doesn't prohibit the operations of ATMs through FDI. That is, specifically the government makes a policy here. Is FDI allowed in certain types of operations of ATMs in India? Of course, yes, FDI is allowed. Right? So the first statement is incorrect. First statement is incorrect. The RBI has prohibited NBFCs from the operations of the ATMs. This is also incorrect. This is also absolutely incorrect. There are white label ATMs which are allowed to be operated by the non-banking financial companies. But of course, yes, before they start operations, they will have to get the approval from Reserve Bank of India. They will have to get the permission of the Reserve Bank of India. So second statement is incorrect. The prepaid instruments cannot be used in ATMs. The prepaid instruments cannot be used in the ATMs. Now listen to me carefully. Prepaid instruments means what? Certain amount of money is loaded onto the prepaid, right? Or let's say certain cards. The money is loaded and I'll give you the card. You can use this money which is already there in the card for purchasing, right, at certain locations, for using for certain purposes. Can you use the prepaid cards in the ATMs? Certain prepaid cards, basically different types of prepaid cards are there. Full KYC prepaid cards you can use in the ATM machines. You can use in the ATM machines. This statement is incorrect, right? So all the three statements are incorrect. Right option for question number 8 will be option D. Question number 9. Which of the following is India's first maritime non-banking financial company? Which of the following is India's first maritime non-banking financial company? A very factual question. In recent times, the government of India has been promoting the concept of, right, the port infrastructure, construction of the shipping, promotion of the shipping industry, etc. In that particular context, you will have to remember the name of this particular first maritime NBFC, and that is Sagarmala NBFC. The full name is Sagarmala Finance Company, SMFCL. Please remember the name Sagarmala Finance Company. Earlier it was having a different name, but now this is called as a Sagarmala Finance Company, which has been given the NBFC license by Reserve Bank of India. Just factual information. Please make a note of this. UPSC can ask this question in the preliminary examination. With the government of India promoting so much reforms, so much amount of investment, funds, etc. associated with maritime now. So the right option for this particular question will be option B, Sagarmala Finance Corporation. Next, question number 10. Consider the following statements regarding share buyback. Regarding the concept of share buyback. Now, what is this idea of a share buyback? And this has been there in the discussion because of the share buyback that has been announced by Infosys company. Now, what is the discussion that has been happening here? Infosys has announced that it will be purchasing certain shares from the market. It will be purchasing certain shares, right, from the market. The shares which have been issued earlier, right, they will be purchasing through a tender offer, right. That was there in the newspaper associated with this particular concept of a share buyback. But what does it actually mean? Share represents equity. Equity represents ownership. Simple. Share is part of equity. Equity represents ownership. Now, whether you are a listed company or an unlisted company, whether you are a listed or unlisted company, whatever ownership that you have sold, right, whatever ownership that is in the form of equity or shares that you have released or issued in the market, you are allowed to repurchase the shares. That is essentially the concept of a share buyback. Companies which are sitting on the large surplus of the cash, the companies which are worried about, let's say, the hostile takeover, the companies which are worried that too many shares of the company are present in the market, and as a result of that, the share prices are not correctly valued, etc. These are some of the reasons why companies will go for share buybacks. And very recently, Infosys company has proposed to purchase or to go for a share buyback of 18,000 crore rupees. Now, the share buyback can be conducted only by the listed companies. Only by the listed companies? No. It can be conducted by the listed companies as well as unlisted companies. With the share buyback, the free float in the market increases. Now, what is the basic idea of a free float? Let's say there is a company here. This company has issued hypothetically 1,000 shares. Out of 1,000 shares, let's say 400 shares are held by the promoters. That is owners of the company who started the company. Remaining 600 shares are there in the market for trading purposes. These are being traded, bought, sold on day-to-day basis. Basically, the number of shares which are there in the market for trading purposes, this is called as a free float. Please remember this particular term, free float. It is also being, it will also be important when you calculate the concept of a Sensex. When you calculate Sensex of the stock market, that is a BSE, you require the free float factor, right? So, how many shares out of the total shares are there for trading purposes is called as a free float. So, when the company will go for a buyback, let's say they will purchase these particular 100 out of 600 shares. Do you think the free float increases? No. the free float rather decreases. The free float rather decreases. So, free float doesn't increase, it rather decreases. Okay. Next one, the buyback can be conducted only through the tender offer, right? Buyback can be conducted only through tender offer, right? What is the concept of a tender offer? The company basically issues a notification and simply says, I want to purchase so many shares. The investors who are holding the shares will offer to sell these particular shares to the company, right? So, that is basically concept of a tender offer. Is it the only method that you can go for a share buyback? No, right? The company can even go to the open market and start purchasing the shares back. So, is it the only tender offer under which the share buyback is allowed? No, this is incorrect. So, all the three statements for this question number 10 are incorrect. The right option will be option D, none of the above. The last question, question number 11. Which of the following committee is set up to recommend the next generation reforms for transforming India to developed country by 2047? This is important in the context of the fact that the government of India, that is the Prime Minister of India, on 15th August in the speech mentioned that the government would be setting up a new committee which would be recommending the next generation reforms which will help India to revamp the current economic systems, revamp certain structure, make reforms which will help India become a developed country by 2047. Following the speech, there is a committee which has been set up by Mr. Rajiv Gauba. Right, so the committee which has been set up by the government to recommend next generation reforms is option B, Rajiv Gauba committee. Remember, the name of the committee can be asked in the preliminary examination. So, these were the 11 questions from the important concepts which were there in the newspaper in the last 1 month. If you have liked this particular set of the questions, do let me know in the comment section. And if you have liked this particular discussion, do not forget to show your appreciation by clicking the like button and subscribing to our YouTube channel now. See you again in the next video where I'll bring up another set of questions from the important current affairs from the subject of Indian economy. Take care.
So now we will discuss the questions related to art and culture. And the idea is that the current affairs behind these questions is equally important than the question itself. And through this, we'll try to revise everything. So we will discuss the context and why the question was asked and what is the logic of answering it. So let's look at the 6 questions. The first one deals with a very interesting topic which was in the news. St. Mary's Island Cluster, Kerala, Iramati Dibalu, Andhra Pradesh, the Mavlu Caves, Meghalaya. Which of the above are correctly matched? Now the context is 7 sites being added into the UNESCO tangible or what is called as World Heritage, but very important, tentative list. So the 7 sites all fall under the what is called as natural category. There are 4 provisions for that within the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. So they have been added to the tentative list. So basically they've been added to the inventory. Now I think I've given you enough time to look at these and give me the answer. So is it only 1 pair is correct, 2 pairs are correct, or all the pairs are correct, or none of the pairs is correct? So here the answer is obviously only 2 pairs are correct. Why? Because yes, Iramati Dibalu is Andhra Pradesh, the Mavlu Caves is Meghalaya, but this is not Kerala but Karnataka. And if you look at the 7 sites itself, we have the Deccan Trap of Panchgani and Mahabaleshwar, the Geological Heritage of St. Mary's Island, Karnataka. This is specific to the Koina Wildlife Sanctuary. Then we have the Meghalayan age concept, which comes from Meghalaya, the Mavlu Caves itself. Then we have this is very equally important, the Naga Hill Opaloid, then Iramati Dibalu, Natural Heritage of the Tirumala Hills, and Varkala Caves. Now, each of them have a very important value when it comes to our geological heritage. For example, this tells us about lava flow and one of the oldest part of the subcontinent. This tells us about something called the concept of how lava actually cools down and makes hexagonal formations, which is called as columnar basaltic rock formations. This obviously has been in the news previously because we believe that this marks a break in the Holocene itself. Then, when we talk about the ophiolite, the way in which when subduction happens, if between two plates there is an oceanic plate and it gets subducted or trapped in between, it is called in ophiolite. This is known for obviously the sand dunes, a coastal sand dune formation. Tirumala Hills are known for what is called as disconformity or unconformity, which is within the layers of that hill itself, there is a layer of time missing. That is called an apparition unconformity. And Varkala cliffs are a very good example of what are called as coastal formations. So all have been added to the tentative list. Please do note this, because if you don't know that, you are going to call them UNESCO World Heritage Sites. No, not World Heritage Sites, tentative list in that regard. So all are now part of the inventory, and this is a type of question which can come out of this topic. Easy, straightforward. The location matters. Then consider the following statements. The Daruma dolls is a traditional Chinese wishing doll modeled after Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma was an Indian monk from Kanchipuram who had traveled to China and Japan. Which of the statements is or are correct? Recently, a Prime Minister received this. Now, if you know the current affairs here, then it becomes very easy to eliminate the first one as being incorrect. Why? It is not a Chinese tradition, it is a Japanese tradition. And because our Prime Minister visited Japan, it is a Japanese tradition. This is called a Daruma doll. Daruma doll is actually after or is modeled around what is called as Bodhidharma. Daruma means dharma in the Japanese language in that regard, and therefore this is after Bodhidharma. He is considered to be the founder of Zen Buddhism, and because he meditated in front of a wall for 9 years, this represents him in that regard. It is a wishing doll. If you have some wish, you first color one eye, and when that wish is completed, you complete the Daruma doll. This was again in the news, very interesting artifact or tradition which exists in Japan, but he did travel to China and Japan both. We have references of him in China also, we have references to Japan also. Second statement is correct, so only 2 is correct, the first statement is incorrect. Interesting, you should know about this, we recently discussed this in UCAN also. Third question, consider the following statements. The Gyan Bharatam portal was recently launched by the Ministry of Education to create a central repository for traditional knowledge. States and union territories can nominate texts and manuscripts for inclusion into the portal. I give you time to answer this in your mind. Take your time. Which of these statements are correct? Only 1, only 2, both are correct, both are incorrect. Again, this is very well, you can say, established current affairs by now and has been there. Gyan Bharatam portal has been there for a very long time in the news, but September it got, you can say, highlighted more. Here, the answer obviously is neither 1 nor 2. Both statements are incorrect. Gyan Bharatam portal is nothing but National Manuscripts Mission, NMM as it was called. National Manuscripts Mission has now been taken out of Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, and it has now become a centralized portal through which manuscript digitization is going to happen. There is no concept of state or union territories nominating texts. It is basically for the digitization of manuscripts. National Manuscript Mission has been renamed this, and for preservation and using technology. Basically, there are close to 1 million plus manuscripts and texts which still lie around in their very bad shape. The idea was to digitize them. It is a digitization of our archive. So the main concept is digitization of archive. Please do note this. This is not a new. We have been discussing how NMM has not worked, and there was a proposal to create a new body. This is the new body which has been created, a new institution which has been created so as to make sure that now NMM goes forward under Gyan Bharatam portal. This looks convincing, but both the statements are incorrect. So therefore, neither 1 nor 2 are correct. This is equally important. Looks like Gyan Bharatam education. That is why I gave you this question. Question number 4. Consider the following statements regarding Dhuniraj Govind Phalke. He was the producer, director and screenwriter who directed India's first feature film. The Prime Minister presents the Dada Saheb Phalke Award for outstanding contribution to the growth and development of Indian cinema. So the context is obviously Mohanlal getting the Dada Saheb Phalke Award. Now, you should know who this personality is. Dhuniraj Govind Phalke is the personality after which Dada Saheb Phalke is actually named. So, was he the producer, director and screenwriter of India's first feature film as quoted by the government of India as Raja Harishchandra? Yes, this is correct. However, the Prime Minister does not present Dada Saheb Phalke Award, it is the President. So, this is incorrect. The answer becomes one only one is correct. This is a technicality. You should know that the President presents Dada Saheb Phalke Award. The second part is totally correct. The first part is the first statement is correct. You should know Dada Saheb Phalke Award is named after which personality. Mohanlal getting it is the context in which we are asking this question. Fairly easy question if you know your basic awards and honors, standard art and culture. Okay. Consider the following statements regarding Vittal Bhai Patel. In 1924, he was elected member of the Central Legislative Assembly from Bombay City. He was the first president of the Central Legislative Assembly. Which of the above statements are correct? The context for this is that recently the Delhi government celebrated what is called as the Speaker's Day, and therein he is considered, Vittal Bhai Patel is considered to be the first speaker. The concept is that there was no position of the speaker, it was the position of the president in the Central Legislative Assembly, which is considered a precursor to the speaker. Now, was he elected as the member of Central Legislative Assembly? Yes, this is totally correct. But he is not the first president. He is the first Indian to get elected as the president, then making him basically the first speaker. Vittal Bhai Patel is embedded in multiple spaces in your syllabus in that regard. First, in the context of Kheda Satyagraha. Thereafter, Swarajist no change is a very important Swarajist in that regard. And then as the president of the first Indian president of the Central Legislative Assembly, because he will create a separate secretariat, he will till 1930 serve within the Central Legislative Assembly. But a very important personality, brother of Vallabhbhai Patel, very important personality, again in the news recently, can expect a question in the examination. So therefore, you should know that he was elected from Bombay City, 1924. It is in this stint, 2 terms he will serve and become the first Indian president of the Central Legislative Assembly, thereby the first speaker. So important that way, important personality. The last question deals with again anniversary 100 years of Kakori. Therefore, consider the following. Ashrafullah Khan, Rajendra Lahiri, Chandrasekhar Azad, Sachindranath Bakshi. Which of the above personalities were associated with the Hindustan Republican Army? Only 1, 2 and 3, or 1, 2 and 3, or all of them. This you should know. Kakori train action, 9th August 1925, 100 years in 2025. And the 8 down train was looted, 8,000 rupees was taken. Everybody got, you can say, got caught, except for Chandrasekhar Azad. Here the answer, I think by this time you know, is all. All of them are the members of the HRA. If it asks which of the following is an HSRA member, then it would have been Chandrasekhar Azad, because he's the only one who survived the what we call as onslaught on the HRA after Kakori. So in these 6 questions, we have discussed certain personalities. You should revise the HRA members because they become important in the Hindustan Republican Army. You should know who is Vittal Bhai Patel because he was again in the news. We have discussed the Gyan Bharatam portal. Now I'm basically giving you a summary of what you have to remember. Gyan Bharatam portal, how it is National Manuscript Mission change. 7 new sites have been added into the inventory of the UNESCO World Heritage. This is based on the concept of the natural category. That is why all are related to our geological history in that regard. We have also discussed about the Daruma doll, how Daruma doll was given to the Prime Minister in Japan. It's a Japanese wishing doll tradition, and you should know this also. So that ways we have discussed multiple, you can say, aspects which are relevant for the examination, and I hope that you will be able to solve them, or you were able to solve them. And remember, if you don't know any of these, you can say current affairs or you were not aware of them, either you can refer to the UCAN or to the comprehensive news analysis. We have discussed all of this within class and within the CNA also. Thank you. I think this is a fruitful session. We can now move on to the next subject.
Hello and welcome to Unacademy. We are here to discuss a few multiple choice questions from Science and Technology current affairs from the month of September. Let us see the first question. Consider the following statements regarding the hydrogen fuel cell technology. And the first statement is, hydrogen fuels convert the chemical energy directly into electrical energy with water and heat as the only byproducts when pure hydrogen is used. Let us see whether the first statement is correct or not. In the hydrogen fuel cell, as you observe, we have anode here and the hydrogen enters into the anode. Hydrogen enters into the anode, and here the hydrogen splits into H plus and electrons. The electrons will pass from the anode to the cathode through this external circuit, and the H plus ions will pass through this membrane into the cathode. In the cathode, this H plus ions, this electrons and the oxygen which is entering into the cathode from the external atmosphere, all of them combine to produce water. So one effluent is water, one byproduct in the hydrogen fuel cell is water, and the other byproduct is heat. If heat and water are the byproducts, then what is the main product? The main product is electricity. From what the electrical energy is generated? From the chemical energy in the hydrogen. So the first statement is correct. Coming to the second statement. Unlike batteries, the fuel cells do not store the energy but produce the electrical energy continuously as long as hydrogen and oxygen are supplied. Let us check whether it is correct or not. As long as you are supplying the hydrogen into the anode and supplying oxygen into the cathode, this electricity will keep getting generated, but this electricity is not being stored in the fuel cell. Yes, unlike battery, we are not storing the electrical energy, we are continuously producing electrical energy as long as the hydrogen and oxygen are being supplied. So the second statement is also correct. Then, hydrogen can also be used in the internal combustion engines. Is this correct? Yes. Like petrol, diesel can be used in the combustion engine, even hydrogen can undergo combustion and produce energy. So hydrogen can be used in the internal combustion engines also, in addition to being used in the hydrogen fuel cells. So the third statement is also correct. And the correct answer is C, that is 1, 2 and 3. All the given statements are correct. All the given statements here are correct. Okay. Moving on to the second question. The second question here is, with reference to Naegleria fowleri, the brain-eating amoeba, consider the following statements. Recently, the brain-eating amoeba is very much in the news. In Kerala, there are a few people died due to this brain-eating amoeba. More than 70 people got infected and around 20 people died due to this infection. This is very much in the news. Let us see this question regarding that topic. The Naegleria fowleri is a single-celled, free-living organism found in warm freshwater bodies. So the first statement is correct. This is a brain-eating amoeba. Its scientific name is Naegleria fowleri, And what is it? This is an amoeba. An amoeba is a protozoa, a protozoan organism. All protozoans are unicellular, means their body is just one cell, and they are eukaryotic. They are eukaryotic. They can infect the human beings, but they are not obligate parasites. It means they can also have a free living lifestyle in the water bodies. They are also free living. It means they are not like viruses that they have to compulsorily stay inside a host cell. Okay, so it's a single celled free living organism found in the warm freshwater bodies like wells, ponds, lakes, etc. So the first statement is correct. Next one. The infection primarily occurs by drinking the water contaminated with this amoeba. This is a wrong statement. Maybe exceptionally in some cases we may get this brain eating amoeba even by drinking the contaminated water, but it is definitely not the primary source. What is the primary source? For example, when a person is swimming, if the water in which we are swimming is contaminated by this amoeba, then the amoeba enters into our nose. Through the nose it enters into the brain and it actually and literally eats the brain. That is brain eating amoeba. So the primary source of infection is not the drinking water. The disease caused by this amoeba primarily causes the primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. Primary amoebic, it is called amoebic because it is caused by amoeba. Meningoencephalitis, what do you mean by this? Okay, meningeal layers means they are the protective layers. They are the protective layers around the brain. And cephalon is a word related to brain. And itis word wherever used, this means inflammation. So, meningoencephalitis means meningeal layers and the brain will get infected. Inflammation or infection in the meningeal layers and the brain. So that is primary meningoencephalitis. It is a non-communicable and almost always fatal. Yes, this brain-eating amoeba infection is not communicable. It will not spread from one person, one human being to the other human being. It will only spread when we spend some time in the fresh water, that too in the warm conditions. When the amoeba enters into the nose, through the nose it will reach the brain and will eat the brain. But it is not like spreading from one person to the other person. So the third statement is also correct. Okay, and which of the following statements, given statements are correct? Okay, 1 and 3 only, that is B, 1 and 3 only is the correct answer. Moving on to the third question. The third question is with reference to NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar, consider the following statements. The first statement is NISAR is the first dual frequency radar imaging the satellite globally. That means in the world, this is the first satellite which is using a radar in two different frequency bands. Let us see what are they. Okay, here let us see a few points about the NISAR mission. NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar. First of all, what is a synthetic aperture radar? Synthetic aperture radar is a moving radar. I mean, it is not, okay, like not at a one particular position. It will keep moving. It is a moving radar which is usually fixed to an aircraft or a spacecraft. A radar which is fixed to either an aircraft or a spacecraft is called as a synthetic aperture radar. And in this particular example, it is not fixed to the aircraft, it is fixed to the spacecraft. Which spacecraft it is fixed? That particular spacecraft is called as the Nischay mission. To that satellite, this is fixed. And it is dual band radar. So, what is the dual band radar? Why this is called dual band radar? Because here it is the first satellite mission that use two different radar frequencies, that is L band and S band frequencies. Okay, what is L band, S band? First of all, what do you mean by the word band? Band is a range of frequencies. The word band means a range of frequencies. Look at this table. L band means what? Okay, L band means a range of 1 to 2 gigahertz of frequency. Hertz is a unit of frequency. It's a unit to measure the frequency. L band is a band which is having a frequency ranges, electromagnetic radiation, frequency ranges from 1 gigahertz to 2 gigahertz. S band means a band that is a range of frequency. I already said a band means a range of frequency. What is the range of frequency in the S band? It is 2 to 4 gigahertz. This is nothing but L band and S band frequency ranges. Okay, and in the Nischay mission, the NASA will provide the mission's L band synthetic aperture radar. A radar which will work in the L band frequency ranges will be provided by NASA, and a radar which will work in the S band frequency ranges will be provided by ISRO. It is a radar which is tied to the spacecraft. Okay, let us check the statements. Nischay is the first dual frequency radar imaging the satellite globally. Yes, correct. Second statement, NASA provides S band radar, ISRO provides L band radar. No, this is wrong, but opposite statement is correct. That is, NASA provided the L band frequency radar and ISRO provided the S band frequency radar. So the second statement is not correct. Third statement, the mission aims to provide unprecedented views of Earth's land, ice, ecosystems, and monitor the surface deformations and natural hazards. Okay, it means the synthetic aperture radar will be mapping, if you assume this to be the Earth, and this is the orbit around the Earth. In this orbit, the Nischay mission will be orbiting around the Earth. While it is orbiting around the Earth, it will keep mapping the entire Earth, different ecosystems, different terrains, ice, okay, all the mountains, all the structures. Okay, so the third statement is correct. Okay, and which of the statements given above is correct? 1 and 3. Okay, 1 and 3 only. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1 and 3 only. B is the right answer. Third question, B is the right answer. Okay, change the numbers here. First statement, second statement, third statement, and the correct answer is 1 and 3 only. Moving on to the fourth question, but before that, another small information about the Nischay mission. Okay, this Nischay mission will map the entire Earth every 12 days. Once in every 12 days, it will completely map the Earth. That is the Nischay mission. It's a joint venture of NASA and ISRO. Okay, moving ahead for the fourth question. Okay, the fourth question is, consider the following statements regarding ISRO's world records. Recently, last month, ISRO announced that it has got total 9 world records to its credit. Total 9 world records. So I made a multiple choice question based on 3 of those world records. Let us see whether they are correct or not. Okay. ISRO's Mars Orbiter mission, that is MOM or Mangalyaan 1. Okay. Mangalyaan made India the first nation to successfully reach the Martian orbit in its maiden attempt. Maiden attempt means what? First attempt. Is the Mars Orbiter mission the first orbiter onto the Mars? Is India the first country to send an orbiter to the Mars? No. But India is the first country to send an orbiter to the Mars successfully in its first attempt, while the other countries could achieve this feat in their 5th or 6th or 7th attempts. Okay, so yes, for that we have a world record. That is correct statement. Next one, PSLV C-37. PSLV means Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. We call it as the workhorse of ISRO. It is the main launch vehicle of ISRO. Most of the launches were done using that vehicle only. C-37 will indicate the number of the launch. Okay, 37th launch in the PSLV, like that. In PSLV C-37 mission, for the highest number of satellites, it is a world record for launching highest number of satellites in a single launch. Okay, in a single launch, we have launched the highest number of satellites as of that date. Later, that particular world record was actually went to the other agencies. Okay, PSLV C-37 mission for the highest number of satellites. How many? We have launched a total of 104 satellites in a single flight. For that, we had a world record. Okay, correct statement. Third statement is Chandrayaan 3 mission made India the first country to achieve a soft landing on the lunar south pole. Correct. Okay. If you remember, when Chandrayaan 3 was launched, a few days before the launch of Chandrayaan 3, there was even a Russian lunar mission launched. But unfortunately to Russia, in a way fortunately to India, that particular mission failed. Probably if that mission succeeded, Russia could be the first country to make a soft landing on the south pole of the moon. But as that particular mission failed, India and the ISRO became the first space agency to make a soft landing. If you assume this as the moon, this is moon's north pole, this is moon's south pole. With our Chandrayaan 3 mission, ISRO is the world's first space agency to make a soft landing near the south pole of the moon. Earlier, few other countries, even we made landing on the moon but not on the south pole. This is the first soft landing onto the south pole or near the south pole of the moon. So that statement is also correct. Which of the statements given above are correct? Okay, 1, 2 and 3. C is the right answer. Okay, fourth question, C is the right answer. 1, 2 and 3. All the 3 statements are correct. Okay, then moving ahead with the fifth question. With reference to Google's Gemini models, consider the following statements. Okay, you know Google Gemini, Nano Banana. These are very much in the news recently with the trend of saree trend and figurine trend. You can create your portraits in the form of a figurines or everybody wearing the same saree. So this was a trend a few days back. So let us see a multiple choice question regarding the same. Okay, the first statement, Gemini Ultra. Gemini Ultra, remember the name. Gemini Ultra is an advanced, very capable and largest AI model. Okay, I mean in certain parameters it is even superior to ChatGPT-4. Is it clear? So Gemini Ultra is advanced, capable and largest AI model designed for complex multimodal tasks. Multimodal task means what? Voice, image, video, like that, in different modes: text, voice, image, video. Okay, that is called multimodal tasks. In performing multimodal tasks, the Gemini Ultra even replaced the ChatGPT, right? Involving text, image, audio, video. It can be used even in the scientific research, coding, and creative collaboration. Creative collaboration like making the videos for what we are discussing. Okay, AI generated videos, AI generated photographs, all those things. Yes, the first statement is correct. Gemini Ultra is the most advanced, most capable, largest AI model, particularly designed for multimodal tasks which are involving text. I mean, you can give a text command to tell it what kind of a photograph you want. You want to edit your photograph into a saree, or you want your photograph to be edited having a Switzerland background. Like that, you can give a text command, you can give a voice command, and it can modify your photograph or it can modify your videograph. Text, image, audio, video. That is called multimodal. Because of this purpose, we can also use it for scientific research, coding, and creative collaboration, like generating this AI generated videos and images. So the first statement is correct. Second statement, Gemini Nano. Okay, observe the difference between the two words. That is Gemini Ultra, that is larger one. Gemini Ultra is the larger one. Gemini Nano is like Gemini only, but not Ultra. Nano, I mean what? Lightweight. Lightweight means it will occupy less space in your mobile. So therefore you can download it into your mobile. Gemini Ultra is not suitable for your mobile phone application, whereas Gemini Nano is suitable for your mobile phone application because it is lightweight, I mean occupy less space. Okay, on the device model specifically optimized for the tasks on the mobile phone. It means Gemini Nano is a smaller version of the Gemini Ultra, which we can comfortably use in the mobile phones. Okay, and then Nano Banana is the Gemini 2.5 flash image model. Nano Banana is the nickname of a particular model, AI model called as Gemini 2.5 flash image. I repeat, Nano Banana is a nickname. It is a nickname of what is the actual name? Gemini 2.5 flash image model. It is used for image generation and editing using the text prompts, correct. This is the one which was used in generating portrait like figurine like images, images in a saree. This kind of the trend was made by this particular Nano Banana, that is Gemini 2.5 flash image AI model. Okay, and the tasks like real-time summarization, real-time summarization on a mobile device and providing contextual replies are typically handled by Gemini Ultra. Wrong. Gemini Ultra is most advanced, most capable, largest one. It is not typically used for the mobile phone applications. Gemini Ultra is not typically used for the mobile phone applications. It is a larger version. Okay, Gemini Nano and Gemini 2.5 flash image can be used in the mobile phone applications. So the fourth statement is wrong. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1, 2 and 3. Okay, where is this? Okay, 1, 2 and 3. B is the correct answer. 5, B is the correct answer. Okay, then let us check the next question. Which of the following is not a direct component of the process of protein synthesis or translation? Okay, let us try to understand the process of translation. In the translation, what happens is you will have mRNA. It is also called as messenger RNA, Messenger RNA will have the nucleotides like AUGCs, adenine, uracil, guanine, cytosine, not thymine. I have written thymine, that is wrong. RNA will not have thymines, okay. And then that is mRNA. And then what happens? A tRNA will come. tRNA will come. T stands for transfer. This is called transfer RNA. Why this is called transfer RNA? Because it will transfer the amino acids. It will transfer the amino acids. Maybe you all know that amino acids are the building blocks. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So protein synthesis is nothing but making a chain of amino acids. Okay. In that mRNA will have a sequence. It will have a message about in which sequence or in which order the amino acids are to be added. So mRNA will give an information about what all amino acids to be added and in which order they are supposed to be added. Okay. And tRNA will bring those amino acids one by one. And these amino acids chain will be formed. The protein is formed inside a ribosome. Inside the ribosome, the amino acids brought by the tRNAs will be assembled like a chain, and that chain is nothing but the protein. Okay. So which of the following is not a direct component of the protein synthesis? Is rRNA a component of the protein synthesis? Yes. As I told you, the proteins are formed, all proteins of our cells. The proteins are formed in the ribosomes. Ribosome contain ribosomal RNA. Ribosome contains ribosomal RNA or rRNA. Therefore, the ribosomal RNA, we even call the ribosomes as the factories of translation. It's like a factory where the proteins are produced. Factories of protein synthesis. Ribosomes are called factories of protein synthesis, and the ribosomes are made up of ribosomal RNA or rRNA. Therefore, ribosomal RNA is a direct component in the protein synthesis. Transfer RNA is a direct component in the protein synthesis because the transfer RNA will bring the amino acids to form a chain of amino acids called proteins. And then amino acids are the direct components of the protein synthesis because obviously a protein is nothing but the chain of amino acids. So the only component which is not a direct component in the protein synthesis is antisense RNA. So the correct answer here is 3. Okay, that is C. C, antisense RNA is not a direct component in the protein synthesis. So that is about the question number 6. Moving on to the question number 7. Consider the following statements with respect to a tokamak reactor. What is a tokamak reactor? You can see a tokamak reactor here. Tokamak reactor is nothing but a fusion reactor. Okay. Fusion reactor means here deuterium plus tritium. What are the deuterium and tritium? They are the heavy isotopes of hydrogen. Means in a way they are nothing but hydrogen only. It means 2 hydrogens combine to form the helium. This process, one hydrogen, another hydrogen, they both will combine to form the helium. This process is called as nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is difficult to achieve because you know like charges repel each other, and you also know that the nuclei are positively charged. Nuclei are positively charged. So 2 positively charged nuclei combining with each other is difficult. They don't spontaneously fuse like this. We have to force them to fuse like this. For this we need a lot of energy. This energy which is used to fuse the nuclei is called activation energy. But by chance if they fuse na, they will give a lot of energy. It means the energy which is used to fuse them is much lesser than the energy that it produces if they fuse. So we call it as an exergonic reaction. This is an exergonic reaction. Okay, and if you observe this particular image, what is this circle here? What is this? This is deuterium plus tritium in the form of plasma. What is plasma? Plasma is the fourth state of the matter. We have solid, liquid, gas. Like that, plasma is the fourth state of the matter. Plasma is nothing but a very hot, highly ionized, material is called as plasma. It is the fourth state of the matter. What do you have in this circle? Deuterium plus tritium in the form of plasma. It is here they will combine to form the helium. That is nothing but the nuclear, we call this as nuclear fusion. The nuclear fusion occurs here. And if you observe this one, this is the wall of the reactor, If you observe, the deuterium tritium plasma is not touching the wall of the reactor, because if it touches the wall of the reactor, then the wall will be either it will melt or blast, because enormous amount of heat energy is there in the form of plasma. It is super hot, highly ionized material. That is a description of plasma. Then how it is kept moving without touching the wall is, here you have very strong magnets. These magnets will keep repelling this plasma in all the directions. So the plasma will not touch the wall of the reactor. Okay, so a ring of deuterium tritium plasma is kept in motion. In this particular plasma, the deuterium and tritium will combine to form the helium. It is very difficult to achieve. You have to give a lot of energy to it by heating it in the form of heat energy. But by chance if you achieve it, it will give much more than energy when compared to the energy which is consumed. Therefore, it is a net energy giving reaction. So, therefore, we call it as exergonic reaction. Such reactors are called as tokamak reactors. Okay, now let us check the statements. Tokamak is a fusion reactor? Yes. This is a reactor where the hydrogen and hydrogen, or deuterium and tritium, which are the heavy isotopes of the hydrogen, will undergo fusion to form helium atom. So, tokamak is a fusion reactor, correct. India's first indigenously designed and built tokamak was named as Aditya. Okay, don't confuse. Aditya L1 is different. That is a spacecraft, that is a solar probe, that is something that we sent to study the sun. But this Aditya is India's first indigenously developed tokamak reactor or the fusion reactor. Okay, next one. SST1 is India's first indigenously developed steady state superconducting tokamak. Okay, is Aditya the first tokamak reactor or SST1 the first tokamak reactor? Both are first. Aditya is the first indigenously developed tokamak reactor, but SST1 is a steady state. Steady state means what? Okay, in the steady state, so tokamak reactor, what we do is we maintain this condition in a very steady manner. Steady means what? Constant. Constant. It means we maintain this particular plasma for a long duration. We maintain this plasma for a long duration. Such a tokamak reactor is called steady state superconducting tokamak reactor. India's first indigenously developed steady state superconducting tokamak reactor is SST1. But SST1 is a kind of experimental fusion reactor, but it is not at the commercial level. Same like SST1, SST Bharat, okay, which is also called as Tokamak Bharat. Okay, that is same thing, that is steady state superconducting tokamak reactor. It can maintain the plasma for a longer duration, same like SST1, but its efficiency will be more. It is a commercial level reactor. Okay, so SST Bharat is a future project of practical electricity generation and achieve continuous steady state fusion power continuously in a steady manner, achieving and continuing the nuclear fusion reaction. So the fourth statement is also correct. Okay, seventh question, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 statements are correct. So the right answer is D. Let's have a small recap. Tokamak reactor means a nuclear fusion reactor, correct. Aditya is India's first indigenously developed tokamak reactor, but it is not steady state and it is not superconducting. The third statement, SST1 is India's first steady state superconducting tokamak reactor, but it is experimental one. SST Bharat or Tokamak Bharat is a future project where that is also steady state and superconducting tokamak or fusion reactor, but that is a larger scale one that can be used at the commercial level. Okay, so all the 4 statements are correct. D is the right answer. Okay, moving on to the next question. Question number 8. India is a member of which major international fusion energy project? Nothing to explain here. Already I explained what is a fusion energy project. Globally, we have several fusion energy projects like our Aditya, SST1, SST Bharat, okay, and European, Joint European Torus Jet in Europe, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor ITER, National Ignition Facility NIF in US, East in China. What are all these things? These are all tokamak reactors, means all these are fusion reactors. In which of these India is a member? In which of the international products India is a member? It's a factual question and the correct answer is B, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Okay, India is a member of ITER project. Let us see briefly about the ITER project. It is an experimental fusion reactor and the partners are European Union, China, India, Japan, South Korea, Russia and the United States of America. So India is one of the members in ITER project, but because European Union is a host, it is contributing 45% to the total tokamak reactor called ITER, and all other countries have 9% contribution, but we don't have to operate the ITER. What we have to do is supply certain components. The component that we are going to supply is nothing but the cryostat. Cryostat. Stat means what? Stable temperature. Cryo means what? Cold temperature. So stably it will keep the ITR in the cold temperature. I mean it will be used as a coolant. Do India operate the tokamak reactor called ITER? No. We will only supply some component. What is the name of that component? Cryostat. What is its application? It is used as a coolant. Can't we use water as a coolant? No. Fusion reactor is generating enormous amount of heat energy. Water is not sufficient to cool the system. Whereas in the fission reactors we use water as the coolant, but fusion reactor will give more heat energy than the fission reactor. Here water cannot be used as a coolant. A coolant called cryostat will be supplied by India. So India is a member of ITER. B is the correct answer. Moving on to the question number 9. Consider the following statements. Angiotensin converting enzyme 2, ACE2, is a crucial protein regulating the body's cardiovascular function. Okay, let us try to understand this. Okay, imagine this is our lung cell. On this, there is one receptor called as ACE2 receptor. ACE2 receptor. And the complete name of ACE2 receptor is angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE, ACE2 receptor. What is its role? Its role is like it is a gate for SARS-CoV-2 and other coronaviruses. SARS-CoV-2 that caused COVID-19 enters into the lung cell through this particular gate. It is a door or a gate through which the SARS-CoV-2 enters into the lung cells like this. Okay, through this it enters. So the second statement is correct. ACE2 receptor act as a cellular entry point for the coronaviruses like SARS-CoV and the SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV means SARS coronavirus, SARS coronavirus, and SARS-CoV-2 is SARS coronavirus 2. SARS-CoV-2 caused the COVID-19, whereas SARS-CoV caused the SARS. SARS means severe acquired respiratory syndrome. Okay, that is the coronaviruses. So yes, second statement is correct. It is an entry point for the coronaviruses like SARS and SARS-CoV-2. Okay, but here we will get one doubt. Why are we keeping a gate open for the virus to come? Why are we welcoming the virus here? No, we are not welcoming the virus. The ACE2 receptor has another important function. For example, who will regulate your blood pressure? Your blood pressure is being regulated by this receptor. This is called angiotensin converting enzyme 2. It is a crucial protein in regulating the body's cardiovascular. Cardio means heart. Vascular means blood vessels. Okay, so ACE2 receptor's actual function is it will control your blood pressure. It will control the activities of your heart and the blood vessels. It means our cardiovascular system, our circulatory system is being controlled by the ACE2 receptor. Is it very important for the human beings? Of course, because it is controlling our circulatory system, cardiovascular system, it is controlling our blood pressure. Very important. But the coronavirus is using this as a gate to enter into our cells. So both the statements are correct. Which of the statements given above are correct? 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2. So C is the right answer. Okay. Then moving on to the next question. The last but one question. 10th one. Consider the following statements about small modular reactors. Small modular reactors. Small modular reactors have a power output of 300 megawatt, making them suitable for small scale remote power needs. Yes, correct. Let us check that once. Look at this image. These are the different types of reactors. Okay, look at this one first. If you look at this is large conventional reactor. It is not a small modular reactor. It is a large conventional reactor. It can generate more than 700 megawatts of electricity. Second level is small modular reactors. They can generate up to 300 megawatts of electricity. By the way, are they fusion reactors or fission reactors? They are fission reactors. And the tokamak reactor that we discussed earlier was a fission reactor or a fusion reactor? That was a fusion reactor. What are the most of the reactors that we have in working condition now? Fission reactor. In the total world, we do not have a commercially operating fusion reactor. It means we do not have a functionally operating tokamak reactor. All are in the experimental stage. Okay, so all the reactors that are generating electricity using nuclear power in India are fission reactors only. Small modular reactor means 300 megawatt. Because it is 300 and less than this like conventional reactor, we can use the word small. And why this is called modular? Modular means like bits and pieces. For example, in my apartment, okay, I don't want to use a diesel generator. Can I keep a small modular reactor? Nuclear reactor, can I keep it, which is using uranium and all? Yes, we can keep it. Instead of generators in factories, apartment complexes, instead of diesel operated generators, we can use small modular reactor. Let us suppose I purchased a small modular reactor for my apartment. In future, the electricity consumption increased. So, I can add one more component to it. I can simply add one more component to it. I need not remove it and replace it with a better one. That increasing efficiency in multiple components is called as modular. Okay, that is assembling various units. Okay, then small modular reactor. Micro reactor is only 10 megawatts. Okay, so the first statement, that is it is a small scale one up to 300 megawatts. Okay, and we can use it for remote power needs. All the points are correct. Okay, then next, they are designed for factory fabrication of the components and modular assembly on the site. The assembly happens on the site. Like for example, if you order a cot, a wooden cot in some online platform, they will send it in bits and pieces. You will attach them, assemble them once they are delivered to your home. So same way here also, modular assembly on the site, allowing for shorter construction time. It is manufactured in the factory and we can only assemble on the site. So that is also correct. Yes, they are manufactured in the factory and they are assembled on the site. SMRs provide a crucial pathway for countries to achieve their net zero emission goals. Net zero emission, we have taken a pledge to minimize the carbon emissions and also to make net zero carbon emissions. Okay, for that it will be useful. Okay, and next one, these advanced reactors use low enriched uranium, which enhances the safety and minimize proliferation of risk compared to the traditional reactors. Wrong. This is not advanced. The conventional reactors are more advanced. They are more capable. Okay, its speciality is not being more advanced. Small modular reactors' speciality is being small, being remote, being capable of using in small establishments like factories and apartment complexes also. And it cannot use low enriched uranium. Low enriched uranium is a uranium in which the proportion of the fissile material, natural uranium okay, is a mixture of uranium-235 and uranium-238. Uranium-235 is fissile material. Briefly, fissile means more reactive. Okay, so low enriched uranium means having low percentage of uranium-235, and low enriched uranium cannot be used in the small modular reactors. So the fourth statement, 1, 2, 3, 4, please change the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth statement is not correct. Okay, so the right answer for the 10th question is, okay, C 1, 2, 3 only. C 1, 2, 3 only is the correct answer. Moving to the last question, okay, 11th question. Consider the following statements regarding laser interferometer lunar antenna. Okay, in our earlier classes several times we discussed about LIGO, laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory, laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory. Okay, we also have LISA. LISA is same, laser interferometer, okay, gravitational wave space observatory. Okay, space means it is like an observatory in the space, whereas LILA is on the moon. LIGO will be there on the ground, land, earth. LISA will be there in the space. LILA, that is lunar antenna, this is space antenna. Okay, laser interferometer gravitational space antenna, whereas this is laser interferometer lunar antenna, LILA. Whether the LIGO on the ground, on the earth, or LISA in the space, or LILA on the moon, all the three are doing the same, that is detecting the gravitational waves. Gravitational waves are nothing but, ripples in the space-time fabric, are called as gravitational waves. Ripples in the space-time fabric are called as gravitational waves, and the instrument which is used to detect the gravitational waves on the earth is LIGO. The instrument which is used to detect the gravitational waves in the space is LISA. Laser interferometer gravitational wave space antenna, and such the detector which will detect the gravitational waves on the moon is nothing but LILA. Laser interferometer lunar antenna, and LISA is nothing but laser interferometer space antenna. I repeat, gravitational waves are nothing but the ripples in the space-time fabric, and space-time fabric means space will have length, breadth and depth, and it will have time as the fourth dimension. Okay, so space-time fabric is a four-dimensional fabric. And what is this? This is like the total universe. total universe is nothing but the space-time fabric. I mean, the earth is also in the space-time fabric only. Ripples in the space-time fabric are called gravitational waves. LIGO will detect gravitational waves on the earth, LISA detects gravitational waves in the space, and LILA detects gravitational waves on the moon. It is proposed next generation gravitational wave detector on the surface of the moon. Do we already have it? No, it is a proposed future project. Next, it detects the gravitational waves in the mid-frequency range, correct. And why are we keeping this detector on the moon? Because locating on the moon, cause moon is much quieter than the earth. Because on the earth we get more seismic vibrations. They will disturb the gravitational waves. Whereas moon, the seismic activity is comparatively less when compared to the earth. So therefore moon is more calm and quiet. So therefore locating a gravitational wave observatory on the moon is better than locating it onto the earth. So therefore third statement is also correct. And the correct answer is, okay, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, 11th question B, 1, 2 and 3, all the statements are correct. That's all for the multiple choice questions related to science and technology from the month of September. Thank you.